It is now 9 o'clock. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to our 25-26 SPSA Pilot School training. My name is Mohammed Tantawi. I am the SPSA Plan Writing Coordinator with the Office of Federal and State Education Programs. And my co-presenter for today is Claire Raju, our SPSA Project Manager.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending our training session today.
Now, before we get started, just a couple of logistics to go over with you. We are going to periodically drop a copy of today's presentation in the chat so you can download it and follow along. You also received a copy with the meeting invitation. If you do have questions, please type them into the chat and we'll try to address them in the chat. And we'll also leave time at the end for Q&A. And then at the end of today's session, there is a brief evaluation survey that we kindly ask you to complete. We'll drop the link in the chat at the end of the session, and it's also included at the end of this presentation that you're hopefully going to download, and it was also on the agenda that you received. We will be recording today's session and sharing that recording at a later date, so you can use it as a reference guide to go back over the information that we're sharing with you today and use it to help guide completion of the 25-26 SPSA plans. And then finally, before we get started, I really want to stress whether you're a school designee or a regional reviewer, that today is only meant to be a big picture overview of the 25-26 SPSA. The regional teams will be offering more in-depth trainings that expand on the topics and information shared today so that our schools are prepared to develop their 25-26 plans and our reviewers are able to review and approve those plans. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. So during today's presentation, we want you to walk away with three key things. Number one, we want you to learn how to access and complete each of the tabs within the online 25-26 SPSA. Number two, we want you to understand the SPSA and categorical budget submission and approval process, as well as how the comments process works in case there are revisions needed for the plan. And then lastly, I'm going to share some SPSA and budget development resources. We want you to think of today's presentation really as a job aid that you can reference later to guide you in completing and reviewing and approving the 25-26 SPSA. For those of you new to using the online SPSA, you can access it from our federal and state education programs homepage. The link is included on this slide. Just follow these three steps. Number one, click on School Plan for Student Achievement in the left navigation menu. Number two, from the drop-down selection, click on Online SPSA. And then number three, click on Launch Online SPSA Template. Once you get to the login screen, enter your single sign-on, enter your password, and click Login. It will default to your school cost center. And then it will also, every November 1st, it will default to the following school year that we're writing the plan for. So you'll see the 25-26 school year as the default year. And then go ahead and click on Go. After logging in, schools will see their plan displayed on the SPSA dashboard page, as you see here. And the first tab for schools to complete is the school identification page. On this tab, the school administrator, the principal, or AP should verify the information on there is accurate and update it as necessary. And primarily, you're updating the SPSA contact information as necessary. If an administrator needs to update the SPSA contact, they can delete an existing contact by clicking on the Delete Contact button. The administrator will get a pop-up window asking them to confirm that they want to delete the existing contact person. And once they go ahead and click on Delete, that contact person and their email will be deleted. Now, to add an SPSA contact person, the administrator can click on Add Contact, type in the first name, type in the last name, and then once they search for the person, a list displaying the first and last names that were typed in will appear. The administrator can click on the select button next to the name of the contact person they would like to add, and then save and close. The contact person's name and email will display on the school identification page. And when that contact person is saved, he or she will also be automatically added as a designee in the list of designees link. And likewise, when a contact is deleted, they will automatically be deleted from the designee list. Now, the distinction between a contact and a designee is that a contact is the primary point of contact for all things related to the SPSA and the Title I budgets, whereas the school can have multiple designees who have access to the plan, who might be supporting the plan writing and budget development. The principal or AP are also the only staff who can add or delete a designee. To add or remove a designee, the administrator can click on the list of designees button on the school identification page. And then to add a designee, the principal or AP can click on Find User and then search for the person by entering the first name, last name, or both. Excuse me. The administrator can then click on the search button to find a list of matching names. Once that person is located, click on the select link and then click on the add user button. Once that's done, the SSO of the administrator and a date and timestamp will display when a designee has been added. Now, as a reminder to our schools, you cannot select an AP as a designee because the AP has the same user role as the principal, and they already have automatic access to the SPSA as long as they are assigned to your school's location code. So you will not even see the select button available for the assistant principal. The one exception to this is the APEIS in our primary grades. Because APEISs are assigned to the regional cost center instead of the school location code, they since they tend to work with multiple school sites, so the school cannot assign, or the APEIS cannot have automatic access to the school's plan. Now, if an administrator wishes to delete a designee, they can click on the trash can in the far right column, and the system again will prompt the administrator to confirm they want to delete that designee. Once a designee is deleted, they lose access to the SPSA, but they can always be added back on as a designee. Once the school identification page is updated, the next tab to complete in the SPSA is the Recommendations and Assurances tab. Here is where the school is going to reflect the involvement of different stakeholder groups in the development of the SPSA and the budgets, and the identification of the school needs through the comprehensive needs assessment process. And so on here, if the school is required to have an English language advisory committee or ELAC, the school would enter the date of the ELAC recommendations to school site council and type in the name of the ELAC chairperson. Now, if ELAC is not applicable for your school, the school can click the NA box next to ELAC. And then when you click on the Save button, any required fields that haven't been completed are going to display in orange, reminding you that these are required fields that you need to go back and complete. Now, if other committees, in addition to ELAC and SSC, were involved in the development of the SPSA and budget, you can type in the name of the committee and click on the Add button to add those additional committees. The administrator will also complete the SSC information, including the date the SPSA was approved by School Site Council, the SSC chairperson name, the date the SSC chairperson approved, and they can also check the applicable box if the SSC chairperson approved or declined to sign off on the plan. And finally, the administrator will enter the date of their principal approval and check the e-signature box and save. Now, the next tab is the funding allocated to school tab, which displays each of the categorical funds allocated to the school each year for budget development. All of our schools will initially begin with $2 allocations in each fund just to enable them to begin doing some pre-budgeting until their actual allocation amount is provided by budget services. Initially, if you were to start budgeting right now, and we're working on setting up that ability for our pilot schools as we speak, if you were to start budgeting right now, because you don't have an actual allocation, your budget summary will display that you are in the red, negative, until you actually get an allocation. And that's fine though. It's just a tool that can help schools do some pre-planning until they receive their actual allocation. Now, this funding allocated to schools tab will only display your categorical funds, your Title I, such as 7E046, 7S046, or 7T197, for example. It will not display any of your general funds here. However, schools can add other general fund programs on this funding allocated to schools tab by clicking on the Add New Other Programs button at the bottom and entering the allocation amount and saving that information. However, that is strictly optional. You are not obligated to add additional funds on this tab. Now, the next tab you will see is below that funding allocated to schools tab is the budget summary. The school does not actually enter any information on the budget summary tab. It's informational only to show you what's been budgeted by the school during budget development and the allocation amounts and what's left, your pending distribution amounts. I mentioned a couple of slides ago that if you were to start budgeting now without an actual allocation, you would see a negative. The negative would be displayed just above the green band in pending distribution. It would be highlighted in red with a negative indicating that you are over budgeted. Now, for any school designees who are not familiar with the budget summary tab, it will display all the items purchased by budget item and by program codes such as 7S046 or 7E046. The green line at the bottom shows the total allocation for each school that's provided by budget services during budget development. And the pending distribution line just above that is the amount that you have left to spend. Think of it like your checking account. Each time you budget an item, that pending distribution amount will be reduced. I mentioned a couple of slides ago that, for now, it's okay because you haven't received your allocation, that if you were to do some pre-budgeting, that you would be in the red in your pending distribution. However, once we populate in the funding allocated to schools tab and on the budget summary, your total allocation from budget services, a school is no longer allowed to have a negative balance showing. You will not be able to submit your SPSA and budget for review and approval if you have a negative in pending distribution. The pending distribution amount must be either zero or a positive balance no greater than $100. Anything negative or anything greater than 100, you cannot submit the plan for review and approval. The next tab is your school vision, mission, and profile description. And here you're going to enter your school vision and mission statements or update those and complete questions 1 through 8. You have prompts to guide you on how to complete each of those questions. For question number 7, other important characteristics about your school, our federal and state education programs department will automatically pre-populate certain designations in that question 7 profile description. We will pre-designate if you are a school-wide program or SWP school, if you are a targeted assistance or TAS school. We will also pre-designate if you are a state-identified school for comprehensive support and improvement or CSI, additional targeted support and improvement or ATSI, or targeted support and improvement TSI. We will also pre-designate if you are one of the district priority schools on the superintendent's list of priority schools. All the other profile descriptions can be selected by the school as applicable. And if you don't see something there that describes your school profile, you have the option to manually add a new program at the bottom. Type in the program name, and click on Add New, and it will add that profile description for your school. Now, the next tab to complete is the school review process recommendations, which is required for high schools. We know that some of our middle schools also go through a WASC accreditation process, but the majority do not. So for any middle schools that do not go through WASC, you can put NA, but this tab is required for high schools. So high schools can indicate the review process, enter the WASC accreditation results, and fill in the recommendations text box. It is recommended, when possible, to connect the strategies written in your plan to your WASC recommendations so there is that clear alignment. The next tab in the SPSA is the Comprehensive Needs Assessment tab, and here schools can select all the committees or groups that participated in the Comprehensive Needs Assessment to identify the needs of your students and families at the school, and using that information to develop your objectives and goals and strategies and actions within your plan. So on this tab, you will reflect the different stakeholder groups that participated in that process. From a drop-down list, excuse me, you will describe what happened with each of those committees or groups. You will select the dates that those meetings occurred and save that information. At minimum, the Comprehensive Needs Assessment tab should reflect a box for your English Language Advisory Committee, or ELAC, if applicable to your school, and then the description of what happened should reflect recommendations from ELAC to your school site council for the SPSA and budget development. And your SSC box should, at minimum, reflect SSC's approval of the SPSA and budget and when that occurred. The next tab in the plan is your Resource Inequities and Evidence-Based Interventions tab. The top section is your Resource Inequities, where your school will identify actionable inequities at the school site. You'll also tell us which inequities are priorities for the school to address, how those inequities will be addressed, and, if applicable, any inequities identified that are not actionable at the school site level, things beyond your control, but they still do have an impact on the achievement of your students or perhaps the engagement of your families. The section below that is the evidence-based intervention section. Here, schools will identify focus student groups and California dashboard indicators that are specifically addressed through the evidence-based intervention that you will provide in this tab. You will also identify the evidence rating for the intervention selected. You're going to give us the name of that intervention, provide a brief description of it, tell us how you will monitor the effectiveness of that intervention as well. The minimum requirement is to have one evidence-based intervention in your plan that will be reflected here in this tab, but schools have the option to add additional interventions. However, if you choose to add additional interventions, each one should be on a separate page. You can click on Add New Evidence-Based Intervention to create additional pages to add other interventions as well. Just know that you're going to receive more information and training on evidence-based interventions and resource inequities at your regional trainings. They'll go more in depth on that topic. And we have examples as well in our resources, which I'll talk about at the end of our presentation. Now, the next set of tabs in the plan will be the pillar pages. And this is really the heart of your plan, because this is where you're going to give us the narrative that describes how you are supporting the needs of your students to improve academic achievement, as well as parent engagement at your school site. Now, starting with the 23-24 school year and continuing this year and into next year and beyond, the SPSA was revised to align with our district strategic plan, and it was specifically realigned with our strategic plan pillars. So within the SPSA, you will address pillar number 1, academic excellence. And within pillar number 1, there are sub-pillars for graduation, college, career, which is required for high schools, but optional for elementary and middle schools. You will also address ELA, math, English learner programs, and other academic content is optional. This gives you the opportunity to address content areas such as science and social science in your plan. All of those are embedded within the academic excellence pillar number 1. You will also, in the SPSA, address pillar number 2, joy and wellness, which addresses attendance, suspension, and social emotional supports for students. And you will address pillar number 3, engagement and collaboration, which addresses parent, student, and staff engagement and collaboration. All of the pillar pages have the same components, so we'll illustrate the different components using our graduation, college, and career pillar. Within the pillar page, schools will first select all the data sources reviewed from a drop-down menu to address that pillar. The selected data sources are going to appear with a check mark beside each one, and then they will populate in the box. If you don't see a data source reviewed in the drop-down menu that your school is using as part of your comprehensive needs assessment process, you have the option to add another data source manually by typing in the name of the data source and then clicking on Add New. But the trick is adding new does not automatically populate it in the box. What it does is it enters it on the drop-down menu at the very bottom. You still have to go to that drop-down menu, select that new data source that you added at the very bottom, and once it appears with a check mark, it will then populate in the box. Below the data source selection will be question number 1, which is your data analysis and key findings related to those data sources that you selected from the dropdown. And question number 2, your root cause analysis pertaining to that data that you analyzed. These questions should connect together. So question number 1 again should connect back to the data sources that you selected. And you summarize your key findings for those data sources selected, and the root causes that you're looking at that are impacting your student achievement and parent engagement should connect back to the summary of that data in question number 1. Now, if we can please mute ourselves. Thank you. Now, you will notice above question 1 and 2, there is a grayed out box with a prompt that reads, what implications do these results have for next year's SPSA plan? It's grayed out because you're not actually answering that question when you develop your 25-26 SPSA. The response to that question will actually migrate from the prior year SPSA evaluation that many of our schools just recently completed. The response to this question is intended to be a summary evaluation of how your school is doing overall in addressing a particular content area, such as graduation or ELA or math. And the reason that we migrated into the following year's plan is it's intended to kickstart that comprehensive needs assessment process that you engage in, where we want you to reflect on how did you do in the past to help guide and inform how you're going to do moving forward as you develop the following year's plan. So when you look at your response to that question in each of the pillars, we want you to use it as an opportunity to reflect on your prior progress and thinking about what can we build on that's working well, or what do we need to do differently as we develop next year's plan. Now, below the data analysis question 1 and root cause analysis question 2 will be your California dashboard indicators. And here, schools will select all the applicable California dashboard indicators for that pillar. So for example, if you're in the ELA pillar, you're going to select the ELA indicator. If you're in math, it would be the math indicator. And again, each one will display with a check mark and then populate in the box. In this same California dashboard section, you will also select the focus student groups within each of the pillar pages. And schools must include student groups who are red or orange on the applicable California dashboard indicator. So for example, if you're in ELA and you have, let's say, English learners and foster youth that are identified as red or orange in ELA, then at minimum, you should select those student groups in your ELA pillar. If you're in math and you have homeless students, for example, identified as red or orange, then you should at minimum select those students as part of your focus groups. This applies to all of the main academic indicators, so graduation for our high schools, ELA, math, English learner progress, and then in the joy and wellness for chronic absenteeism or suspension as well. There's no limit to the number of student groups that can be selected, and again, each one displays with that check mark and then populates in the box. Now, below the California dashboard section on each of the pillar pages will be the measurable objectives section. As a reminder, schools will be required to write two different types of measurable objectives. Implementation objectives, which will be aligned to a strategy or approach that you're implementing, and improvement objectives, which will be tied to some sort of interim or summative assessment data. A minimum of one implementation and one improvement objective is required per pillar page. And you'll actually be able to view the prior year objectives that you wrote. We have a button that you can click on to view last year's objectives as a reference to help you as you're developing next year's objectives. Now, an important note, if a school is red or orange in ELA, math, English learner progress, chronic absenteeism, or suspension, you must include at least one measurable objective that addresses the status. And then for our high schools, if you're red and orange in graduation and or college career indicators, you must include at least one measurable improvement objective that addresses that status. What do I mean by addresses that status? We have samples in our resources that I'll talk about at the end that shows you how you can address your red or orange identification status when you write your measurable improvement objective. And you can use those samples as a reference to help you develop your school objectives as necessary. Now, below the measurable objective section will be the district priority and district strategy selections, which come directly from our district strategic plan. Schools will select a minimum of one district priority and one district strategy in each applicable pillar. First, you will click on the Add, Remove District Priority and District Strategies button. Then you will select the district priorities that apply for that pillar. And each selected priority, again, will display with a check mark. Once you've made your priority selections, you'll click on the Apply button. Clicking on the Apply button then gives you a pop-up for the district strategies that correspond to those priorities that you selected. Now, as a reminder for schools, your district priority selection drives your district strategies that are available for you to select. So if you selected, for example, priority 1A, high quality instruction, you will only see the district strategies aligned to that priority 1A for you to select from. You will not see 1B, 1C, or 1D strategies because you did not select that priority. So district priority selection drives your district strategy selection. Once you've selected all the applicable district strategies that align to those priorities, then you'll click on the Save button. And saving will save both of the priorities and the strategies that you selected. And it will look like this. The priorities will be on top, and below them will be the district strategies. Now, when you develop your school strategy and your school actions, that's going to be the key part of your plan, because again, that's where you're going to give us the narrative that describes how you are specifically at your school supporting the needs of your students to improve academic achievement and parent engagement. When you develop your school strategy, you must include three key elements in your strategy description: the what of the strategy, the who, and the why. By what, we mean what is the approach, the evidence-based approach that you're implementing at your school. In our example here, the what is to provide targeted high-impact math intervention Now, that's a very broad evidence-based approach. We don't want you to just stop there with a broad statement, though. We want you to tell us specifically, what does that overarching approach look like at your school? Because not every school is going to implement high impact math intervention in the same way. So we want to know what it looks like specifically for your school. And that's where you can then include what I like to call sub-strategies that support that overarching umbrella strategy. So in our example here, our sub-strategies include number one, tier one in-class intervention using a three-phase problem-solving approach to reteaching our Eureka math curriculum. It also involves a second sub-strategy, tier two after-school intervention, that includes integrating technology using iReady. And it involves a third sub-strategy, monitoring of that tier one and tier two intervention through Eureka Math and iReady diagnostic assessments. So the sub-strategies are your way of telling us specifically what that strategy is going to look like at your school. Now, the who of our strategy is who's going to benefit or be targeted through this particular strategy. In our example here, it's students in grades 3 through 5. And the why is what's the need behind that? What does your data and needs assessment show that you're implementing this strategy? The need in our example here, or the why, is that these students in grades 3 through 5 are below benchmark on the SBAC or Smarter Balanced assessment. So once again, for your strategy, include the what, the who, and the why. Not necessarily in that order, but you want to make sure you have those three important elements. Now, your school actions must align to that school strategy that you develop, and they should describe how your strategy is being implemented. And as part of that how description, you want to include three key headers that you must have within your actions. Number one, PD/planning. Number two, implementation actions. And number three, monitoring/evaluation actions. So going back to our example of that high impact math intervention, that's our strategy, what might my PD planning look like to support that overarching strategy and those sub-strategies? Well, number one, I might have someone coordinate those tier one and tier two interventions that are part of my sub-strategies. So I might have an intervention prevention coordinator guide the teachers in reviewing data and identifying students for tier one and tier two. Part of your development of your actions is also thinking about how do you align your Title I budget to specific actions. So an example of that might be that I would hire an intervention prevention coordinator to do that work. And you want to make sure that when you align your budget, that each budgeted item is aligned to a specific action. So you'll notice that that prevention support coordinator is described at the end of that first action in my PD planning actions. What might be another example of PD planning actions to support my high impact math intervention? I'm going to have teachers engage in data analysis and planning for tier one and tier two. So I might have my grade 3 through 5 teachers working with the coordinator to analyze data during weekly grade level meetings. And also planning lessons for the three-phase problem solving and reteaching that Eureka math curriculum that we have. I might also have the teachers who are going to provide the after-school intervention, that tier two, meeting after school to analyze that SBAC data that we use to identify our students and planning for the intervention and the integration of the iReady learning software. So I might, for example, pay those teachers teacher X time to do that planning work. Now, does every single action need to involve a budget item? No. If you notice this action here, where my teachers are meeting during weekly grade level meetings, because it's already happening during the regular school day, there's no additional budgeting involved. But you want to make sure that you describe all the actions that are going to effectively support implementation of your strategy, whether or not there's a budget tied to them or not. Another example of the type of PD planning that you want to engage in when it comes to your actions is thinking about, are there any materials or items that I need to purchase to support effective implementation of the strategy? So going back to our strategy here, we talked about integrating technology in the form of iReady. So I might want to, for example, purchase Chromebooks so that students could utilize them to work on that iReady learning software. And I might purchase a charging cart to make sure that they're continually charged for student use. And in our example here, even though we know the district provides our iReady software, we're pretending that it's a software that our school is purchasing so that students can utilize it during that tier 2 intervention. So part of your PD/planning is thinking about, are there any materials or goods that you need to purchase to support this particular strategy that you're implementing? Now, when it comes to implementation, remember my sub-strategies involve that tier 1 in-class intervention as well as a tier 2 intervention. So what will that implementation look like at my school? So for the tier 1 intervention, it might involve the grade 3 through 5 teachers using that three-phase problem-solving approach 3 times a week for 1 hour per session. And during that time, I might have teacher assistants working with students in smaller groups, and I might budget for TAs to support that work. What about my tier 2 after-school intervention? What will that look like at my school? It might involve the 6 teachers providing after-school intervention twice a week for 1 hour for 10 weeks in the fall, 10 weeks in the spring, utilizing that iReady learning software. And again, I would budget tutor teacher X time to support that particular action. And then what about our monitoring evaluation? How are we going to ensure that that tier 1 and tier 2 intervention that makes up part of our strategy is effective? So when it comes to monitoring tier 1 intervention, I might have the intervention coordinator and those grade 3 through 5 teachers review pre and post Eureka Math curriculum assessments. The teachers might also maintain observation logs to make sure students are using that three-phase problem-solving approach that's a key part of our strategy. And then when it comes to the tier 2 intervention, remember we're tying it to our the use of our iReady. It might involve the teachers analyzing iReady pre and post data to determine whether there was growth from the students who participated in that tier 2 intervention. So once again, to sum up, your school actions are the how of how the strategy is going to be implemented, and you must include 3 key headers: PD planning, implementation, and monitoring evaluation. And you're aligning your budget to specific actions by including the budget description at the end of that specific action if there's a budget associated with the action. But you don't want to limit yourself to just actions that have a budget tied to them. You want to thoroughly describe all of the PD planning, implementation, and monitoring actions that will effectively support your strategy. When you put it all together in your SPSA pillar, it will look something like this. There's that high impact math intervention with the sub-strategies that I shared earlier. And here are the school actions, including those key headers of PD planning, implementation, monitoring, evaluation, and actions have budget items associated with them when applicable. Okay. Now, a minimum of 1 school strategy with actions is required per pillar that you must complete. While you can add multiple strategies and actions in a pillar, it is highly recommended that you focus on 1 and no more than 2 school strategies and actions per required pillar. The reason for that is we want you to really commit to 1 to 2 key strategies with multiple actions that you're going to commit to implementing with a high degree of fidelity to ensure improved student outcomes and parent engagement. If you develop too many strategies and actions within each of your pillars, you're going to be stretching yourself very thin, and it will be very difficult to ensure effective implementation of all of those. We'd rather see that you focus on 1 to 2 high leverage strategies and actions that will give you the improvement results you're looking for. Okay. Next, we'll go over how to align your budget and enter your budget information to align with your school actions. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Claire, who will walk you through this part of the presentation.
Thank you, Mohammed. I'm going to start by showing you how to add new positions. So in the position item section, you're going to select the categorical program fund from your drop-down selections. And next, you're going to select the budget item from the drop-down budget item selections. Now, when you start typing either the verbal description or the budget number, your list of selections will narrow automatically. And so in our example, this school knows that the budget item number starts with 11. The position's funding percentage can be selected from the drop-down list that we show you here in the percentage column. Now, the total cost default is always 100% funded until another percentage is selected. And if you know the position number, you can type it in the position number text box. And now I'm going to cover pilot schools, how to add an existing position that you're going to roll over from last year into this year. So to select your existing positions, we're going to click the Select Existing Positions button, and it's going to open up a pop-up form, which is shown on the right side of the screen here. And it's going to display all of your existing positions in the order of the sequence number. So if you look at the last column on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see the position status pillar page column, and you determine if that position is currently closed or active. So positions that are closed are highlighted in gray, and they display a button, Reopen. Clicking on the Reopen button will change the status to active. Positions that are displayed with a white background are selectable positions. Schools can purchase these again this year in the pillar page, or they could be closed. So in this example, we see two positions that are white. They have a white background, and we selected sequence number 12, the teacher assistant, and it has a position control number of 303 42032. So next we're going to click the Add Positions to Pillar Page button and add it to our current pillar page. We could also close the position by clicking the Close Position button, or we could decide to do nothing and just close the window. We have a little note here that sequence number 13 can be selected in another pillar page. Why? Because it has a white background. Gray and yellow cannot be selected. And then an example on the right-hand side. The school has added sequence number 12 with the position control number, the 303 42032, in the current pillar page. The message will appear in green text at the top. The position has been added to the pillar page successfully. Now, the teacher assistant position with that control number 303 42032 appears in your position item section, and you see that the total cost has already populated as $46,187. And now I'm going to cover how to add new non-positions. In the non-position item section, we're going to select the categorical program fund from our drop-down selections. And then we're going to select the budget item from the drop-down budget item selections. And again, when you start typing either the description or if you happen to start typing the budget item number, your list of selections will narrow. So in our example, this school knows that the budget item number starts with a 10. Now, certain non-position items have an optional vendor selection. Even though the vendor selection isn't required, it does help the district to analyze our vendor data. So in cases where only the total cost appears, then we just type in the total dollar amount. Some non-positions have number of days, weeks, years, number of semesters, trips, or other rate type depending on the budget item. So in our example, the school has entered a second non-position budget item by clicking the Add Non-Position Budget Items button. The itinerant elementary counselor non-positions rate type displays a Y for years. So the school entered one, and the total cost updated to $50,283. And I want to mention here that itinerant positions are considered non-position items in the SPSA application. So those are always going to be a non-position selection for you. And now I'll show you the pilot school budget summary. So the pilot schools need to make sure that there are no budget shortfalls before they submit their budget to the region reviewers for approval. The budget shortfalls are displayed with a red line that shows negative totals beneath your 40261 pending distribution line. This green bar here indicates that you don't have any budget shortfalls. And now I'll cover how to add a new school strategy with actions. To add a new school strategy with actions section, we click the Add New School Strategy with Actions button. And a new label, School Strategy with Actions 2, will display with the district priority, district strategies, school actions, position items, and non-position items. The school can select additional school strategy with actions as needed, and each new one will display with a sequential number. So it would be 2, 3, 4, and so forth. And then I'll cover the Title I school-wide program schools, the Title I parent and family engagement policy, and region monitoring. So the principal or designees can fill out the blue text boxes in your Title I school-wide program schools. And then when the page is saved, if all those blue text boxes have been filled in, the school will receive a green check mark for the page in your left side navigation menu. The Title I Parent and Family Engagement Policy and the School Parent Compact are populated directly from your Principal's Portal website. Once your school uploads the documents in the Principal's Portal, they will automatically appear in these respective sections as we show you. The region monitoring page could only be completed by the regional director, and it is required for CSI schools. So schools that are not CSI, the regional director can describe additional services and the support provided, or they could just write NA in the blue text box. You will not be able to click on the box if you are not a regional district director. And now I'll cover upload attachments. So to upload the SSC approval of your SPSA and the budget, first thing we'll do is going to select the SSC approval of SPSA and budget from your Select and Upload drop-down selections. You're going to click on the Choose File button shown in number 2 here. Then you're going to select the desired file and click the Open button, number 3. Number 4, click the Upload button. Once the file's been uploaded, you'll see the green text message, "File was uploaded successfully." The file name will appear along with the person who uploaded it and the date timestamp. And we also recommend that you go ahead and click on the file just to make sure that it will open. And now I'll cover plan submission. When the school clicks the Submit Plan button, if there are any errors, they're going to display in red text. The errors need to be corrected before the plan can be submitted to the regional reviewers. And in this example, there is only one error. The Resource Inequities and Evidence-Based Interventions page is incomplete. Pages will display a green check mark when they are completed. And exceptions are Graduation, College, and Career Pillar page and other academic content pillar page. When the plan's been submitted successfully, a message will display in the green text, and an email notification is sent to your regional reviewers to notify them that your school is ready for approvals. And now I'll cover the pilot school budget submission. By the way, we'll address questions at the end of our presentation. So to submit the budget to the regional reviewers for approval, first click the Validate Budget Items button, and if there are no errors, a green text appears. Budget items validated successfully. Errors will be displayed beneath the button, and they must be corrected before your budget can be submitted. A red error message will appear when the school clicks the Validate Budget Items. Various errors can occur from the SFE, including an error that informs your school that there are one or more positions that have not been made active or rolled over this year or closed. So every continuing position has to be selected as either active or closed within any of your pillar pages before the school can submit the budget to the region approvers. So if any positions are funded with less than 100% of the categorical funds, then you'll see a blue informational message. It won't prevent your school from submitting the budget, but it does serve as a reminder that there's a remaining portion of funding that needs to be funded from another fund. So click the Notify the Regional Approvers the budget is ready for approval, and a green message will appear, email has been sent successfully. And now I'll cover budget approval tracking. So as each regional approver reviews the budget and checks the box All Budgets Approved or Revision Required, their signature and date will appear in the approval tracking page. When the last regional reviewer approves the budget for each categorical fund, the budget gets submitted to the fiscal specialist for posting. Each fund can be posted successfully or rejected by your fiscal specialist. The regional reviewer's electronic approval for the rejected program fund will be removed. And then the SAP system will send an email notification to the principal and the regional reviewer whose budget was rejected. So as a region reviewer, you will be notified if a budget was rejected for one of your schools. The online SPSA via the SFE will send an email notification to the principal for the successful posting, along with the school budget signature form as an attachment. So we show you two examples here in this first right-hand side. First of all, the Title I program 7S046 budget has been submitted, so that's the indication that your budget was submitted to your fiscal specialist. And the one that I have in the red rectangle here was rejected. The FACE program budget was rejected by your fiscal specialist, and then we tell you the program 7E046. So this approval tracking is very important to track the progress of your budget approval. After each fund in the SPSA budget has been posted successfully in Coffee, then the program fund's document number from SAP will appear. And we have this example where the arrow is pointing down. An email notification will be sent to the principal along with the school budget signature form as an attachment. And we show you in the bottom there, you have a document number and the program. So two of them were posted in this example. The Pilot School's SPSA Plan Budget Approval Progress is displayed in the Pilot Budget tab on your SPSA dashboard. If the budget status is submitted, as each regional reviewer approves, the box will display with the date of their submission and the regional reviewer's name and date. When the fiscal specialist posts in the SFE, then his or her name will display according to the fund. So if any regional reviewer requires a revision, or if the fiscal specialist rejects your budget, the regional reviewer's name or the fiscal specialist's name will display with revision required. So you know who's requiring a revision by looking at your SPSA dashboard, Pilot Budget Show All, as we're showing you here. And now I'm going to cover your plan approval tracking. So as each regional reviewer approves or requires a revision, the regional reviewer's name will appear with the date of their review. So in this example, the Regional Title I Coordinator approved this plan on October 12th of 2022. So as each regional reviewer approves or requires a revision, the regional reviewer's name will appear with the date of their review in the school's dashboard. So in our example, the regional Title I coordinator selected the region approved filter to see the approved plans and their date of approval in her region. So in this case, she would click on the yellow box. In our center example, a principal sees that the Title I regional reviewer is requiring a revision, and her name and date appears. Although a regional reviewer requires a revision, it doesn't stop your other regional reviewers from approving your school's plan, because remember, each of them is reviewing a different categorical program. However, it will stop the school from receiving the federal and state education program's final approval and watermark seal. So you want to make sure you address anybody requiring a revision if you're expecting the FSEP approval. In our bottom example, the director is requiring a revision and her name and date appears once the school receives the regional reviewer approvals and the director's approval. Then your SPSA is ready for federal and state education programs, or FSEP, final approval. And now I'm going to cover the comments process. So your regional reviewers can create a new comment, or they can reply to an existing comment in the comment bubble associated with the pages section. They simply click the Save button. If a region reviewer has more comments to address for the same school, the regional reviewer can address all of the comments for that school, or keep track of the school and address additional schools' comments for as many schools as necessary. When the regional reviewer clicks the Save button, the comments are sent to the school's SPSA Plan Dashboard Comments tab section. The saved comments are highlighted in green on the reviewer side in the comments page. The comments are filtered automatically by school as soon as they're saved. So in this example, the regional reviewer created a comment in Union Street Elementary School, and we see that it's green. So we're looking at the reviewer's picture here. It's green, means I sent it. And we also show you how you can access your comments on the gray box to your right. In our center example, to view the comments for all of the schools, the regional reviewer needs to click the Reset button, and we show you how to do that with an orange arrow off to the right of the screen. And finally, when a regional reviewer has completed all of the school comments, navigate to the SPSA Dashboard's comments page, like we show you here. So here you see they're all green, means your region reviewer sent them, and this is, again, the region reviewer's view. And now, to help you understand this a little better, what we've done is a split screen. We show you the local district reviewer's view on the top, and then the school's view on the bottom. So the school will see an orange-colored message from the regional reviewer, and the regional reviewer will see a green-colored message that was sent to the school. Now we want to note that the Save button does not send an email to the school. The regional reviewer's messages are stored in the database until the regional reviewer instructs the online SPSA to send them aggregately in one big email message. And we're going to show you this later in our presentation. The schools can view the new comment messages on the Plan Comments dashboard. Your comments have an orange background, and the school principal or his designees click on the regional reviewer's name, and then they can hyperlink over to the SPSA page and scroll down to locate the orange flashing comment bubble. School principals and the designees should, number one, click on the flashing orange bubble to open the comments from your regional reviewers. Number two, click on the reviewer type. You may have more than one region reviewer making a comment on the same pillar page, the same section. So it's important that you click on that reviewer type. And then, number three, read the message in the request. And then you're going to reply in the response text box. The school principals and designees should use the scroll bar on the right-hand side to scroll all the way down and ensure that all the comments have been read and responses have been sent. Your school won't be able to click the send button unless all of your comments have a reply in the response text box. Now, there may be more than one regional reviewer, as I said before, making comments on the same page in the same section. Your principal or designee should click on the reviewer type of each reviewer to view all comments and then respond accordingly. If the school principal or designee has responded to all of the regional reviewers' comments, then he or she can click the send button and reply. The message bubble will turn green when the school principal or designee responds to the regional reviewer's comment. And again, I've done a split screen here to show you school's view on top, local district reviewers view on the bottom. The school will see a green colored message once they have responded to the regional reviewer's comment in their planned comments column. Their SPSA page will also display a green message bubble. The regional reviewer will see an orange colored message that was received from the school. To view the school's response, the regional reviewer clicks on the planned comments. And I want to make it a point here to say that the comments are generated from your region reviewer. So the school cannot start a comment thread. It must be started by the region reviewer. Excuse me. When all of the responses to comments are complete, the regional reviewer will mark the comment bubble as complete. The bubble turns purple, and the school knows there are no more pending comments from that regional reviewer. And again, we do a split screen with school's view on top, local district reviewer on the bottom. The school will see a purple comment bubble in their page, and the SPSA dashboard will display purple in the SPSA dashboard plan comments column whenever a comment string's been marked completed by your regional reviewer. The regional reviewer also sees a purple message, so both sides see that the comment thread has been closed. Now, all reviewers within the same region can see each other's comments in the planned comment bubbles, as long as they're the same reviewer type. So, for example, Regional Title I Coordinator X can see and respond to all of Region Title I Coordinator Y's comments, and Y can see and respond to all of X's. This makes it easier for the reviewers to fill in for each other in case of absence or vacation. And then we want to note also that the most recent commenter's name will always appear as the name that accompanies the reviewer type. When schools don't respond to the regional reviewer's comments in a timely manner, then the regional reviewer can send an email to the school to remind them. Only the green pages are selectable in your section column. And we show you there in this top example that you have two blue check marks next to the greens. And what happens is when you select those greens, it's going to send your comments to the schools. So we're going to check the school as we show you and then click your Notify School button. The button this year, we've renamed it as just Notify. So we drop the word school. You click the Notify then, and one email will be sent to each school with all the pages where the comments are pending. So the school only gets one email from you. The notification date will update to today's date for each school that you selected, so you can keep track of who you've notified and you have pending comments. This is especially helpful when you have many schools that you have to review. Okay, and at this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Mohammed, and thank you.
Thank you, Claire. So we're going to briefly just go over resources with you, and then after that, we want to actually take a few minutes to show you a live demo when it comes to adding or closing your existing positions, because that tends to be one of the areas where our schools have some difficulty with every year during budget development. So we want to make sure that you see a live demonstration of how that process works.
Mohammed, I wanted to inform you that I've been informed by the programmers that the QA server is down this morning.
Oh, okay. So we'll try to pivot and maybe do a just a quick show through then on the live production one. Okay. Okay. So when it comes to your resources, one of the places where you can find resources is on the SPSA platform itself. We have a tab labeled resources where you can find resources such as data sources that you can use for your comprehensive needs assessment. We have different parent engagement resources that you can utilize, information about evidence-based interventions, as well as other additional resources that can help you with plan and budget development. You can also access resources on our federal and state education programs homepage. On the left navigation menu, if you click on School Plan for Student Achievement, you'll find a drop-down of very helpful plan and budget development resources there. And when it comes to budget development specifically, we have, again, on the FSEP homepage, a tab that you can click on with a different menu of resources for budget development. Currently, it's still showing 24-25, but in the near future, we will have the resources for 25-26 available. And then lastly, when it comes to your resources, we have updated, and I apologize, that should say 25-26, I'll fix that, digital notebook. The digital notebook includes all the resources that you will need, not only for budget development, but also to monitor implementation of your plan throughout the year and make adjustments to your plan as necessary. So it's really a one-stop shop for all things related to your SPSA and budgets. So it includes a tab for SPSA criteria, which has a matrix of required plan components that your school must address. There's also a checklist of minimum requirements for each of the tabs that we talked about today. And if you follow that checklist, you are ensuring that you are meeting minimum requirements for approval of your plan. We also have a tab for school strategies and actions that includes samples of school strategies and actions aligned to district priorities and district strategies. We have it for graduation, college, career, ELA, math, English learner progress, joy and wellness, and engagement and collaboration. And we highly encourage you to look at those samples as you're developing your own school-specific strategies and actions. Once your plan gets approved, we have a tab that includes resources for an SPSA monitoring tool that your school can utilize to monitor implementation of your plan throughout the school year. And then we know that even the best laid plans, sometimes we have to change course. So if you need to modify your plan after it's been approved, we have training tools and resources on SPSA modifications, including templates and examples of how you would complete an SPSA modification. And then when it comes to the plan, schools are required annually to evaluate the effectiveness of their plan after they've implemented it. So we include training PowerPoint and information on your annual SPSA evaluation. And then in the SPSA resources, you will find all the training PowerPoints, including this one that we're sharing with you. You will also find, excuse me, you will also find there samples of measurable implementation and improvement objectives that I talked about, a sample of a resource inequities and evidence-based intervention tab that's been completed, as well as links to various data sources that can help you with your plan and budget development. And then for our pilot school specifically, this training PowerPoint and information for our pilots is included in the tab. We also have some FAQs around commonly asked questions related to SPSA and budget development. And then lastly, we have contact information for our FSCP staff, our central office staff here, your regional Title I coordinators, your central office and regional family and community engagement administrators, and the multilingual, multi-educational, multicultural education department team as well. And all of these folks are going to be supporting you with your SPSA and budget development in the coming months. Okay. And at this time, let's pause really quick. We will um, go ahead and do a quick share of where you can find those existing positions. And we'll just try to briefly show you how that process would look like if you were opening or closing them. We won't be able to illustrate the full process today because, as Claire mentioned, our server is unfortunately down. But we just want to point that out because it's a really important piece of what you need to do to submit your budget successfully.
I have good news, Mohammed. It's back up.
Oh, excellent. Okay, great. So I'm going to stop my share, and in a moment, Claire is going to share. While she's doing that, I want to just take the opportunity now to maybe address any questions that you might have. And so while she's getting that up and running, let me look. I don't see any in the chat, but feel free to unmute yourself and ask. Alex, I know you had your hand up if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Good morning, Mohammed. Thank you.
Good morning.
Yes, the question I had was regarding, I noticed that I believe it was at the start of the presentation you talked about being able to add and delete people on the school's page as far as the information for the principal or the coordinator. I wanted to know, is it also possible on the uploads part to be able to add and or delete files? Something that we see all the time is a school site will upload a file and a mistake was made on the file and they need to upload another one. And so you have many duplicate files. What gets brought up to us every year is do we have the ability to delete the file? So I saw that you guys were talking about uploads, and I just about to ask, has that something that the program has been looking at as the ability to delete files on the upload section?
The school user is able to upload or delete files. It won't be an option for, depending on your user role. Not every user role has that ability to delete a file, but the school user who's uploading that documentation should be able to delete it as well.
So and you'll see an error message if your files could be too big, right?
No. So it's like, for example, like they upload a file, we review the file, and then we realize that something is incorrect, or they might have not labeled the file correctly, or they might have not included all the information. And then so the fix would be to edit the file and then upload another one. But the original file still remains. And we always get asked, can we delete that original file? Rather than having multiple uploads available on the platform.
Yes, it's allowable to delete, and the school user should be able to delete that.
All right, thank you very much.
Yes, of course. Okay, Claire, I think we're ready for your part. If you would like to go ahead and demonstrate walking through this important part.
Okay, so I'm logged in as a pilot school, Stagg Elementary. And right now, I'm going to show you how to either add or close one of your rollover positions, okay? So here we have, you can see select existing positions. And you see the grayed out, this is a closed one that I could reopen it and that would make it active. I'll show you what that would look like. See? And I could also close it right here. Notice how you can't reselect it now because it's closed. This one here now, I want to add it to the current pillar page. I'm in the ELA page. I'm going to select it. And then I'm going to click on Add Position to Pillar Page. And then I'm going to close it, either the red X here, or I can close it here.
And Claire, if you want to point out the sequence number so they know which one you had selected.
Yeah, sequence number 20. You're right, I should have mentioned that. It turns yellow once you select it. But here you can see sequence 20 is here. And it already updated the cost for you. So all you have to do at this point is just save the page. And I'm going to click on my save. And I see this green message that tells me my page was saved.
And this is very important. We want to reiterate, if it's an existing position that you're rolling over with that particular position number, it's important that you do it through this process that we're demonstrating now, not to add it as a new position, because even if you were to add it as a new position and enter that same position number, the system will still expect that you assign a status to your rollover positions of either active or closed. So if you're planning on keeping that same position for the following year, do not do it by adding a new position. Do it from the select existing positions option and then make that position active within the pillar you want to assign it to. So next we'll show you how to close one that you might have open within a particular pillar.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this position that I just added. And then I'm going to go back and select existing positions. I'm going to select that same sequence number 20 again. And this time I'm going to close it. And you can see now 20 is gray and I can't select it. If I decide, oh, I had a change of direction, we need to add this person back, we just click on our reopen again, and then I select it and I can put it back in the pillar page.
Now, everything we're going over applies to your existing positions. So let's say in that existing positions list, you don't see a position that's rolling over, but you want to add it to your new 25-26 plan. So then what you can do, Claire will demonstrate, is click on Add Position Items treated like a new position you're entering. And we'll demonstrate that using the Categorical Program Advisor position, for example.
So again, we're going to add it to 7SO46. I know that the categorical program starts with 1-1, and I happen to know it by heart. You might not, but remember how I said your selection narrows as you type it. And look what happens now to this list when I finish the number, see? So here I want to show you how you can select a different funding position as well. Let's say you want to fund this at 50% and you want to fund the other 50 out of 7E046 or even a general fund. Simply select whatever percentage applies and it automatically updates your cost. And again, we really stress that you save your page. You know, we had a server down this morning and that's just the world of IT that we live in. So we really encourage everybody, please save your work regularly. And so, as Mohammed said, I added the CAP program here. And then I want to go back to my budget summary page because I want to keep track of what I've purchased so I know how much I have left to spend. In this case now, I'm showing you this deliberately, that this is what a shortfall looks like. Means the school has overspent by this amount. So you see the details of your purchases. And it's possible now maybe I need to select a smaller percentage, right? So that I don't have a shortfall condition. I'm going to go back to my budget summary and take a look. And now I've just simply refunded this for 20%, leaving me, again, $14,000, and I can spend that however I want to. Your school will know what you want to buy, obviously. So,
and Claire, if we can just quickly demo a non-position entry as well.
Okay. I'm sorry, I have to keep moving everyone's picture off to the side because it blocks what I'm what I'm doing. So you would click on your add non-position items and then you're going to select your program. And did you want to do, say, a PSA?
Let's actually demonstrate tutoring so the school can see how that's done. Tutor teacher X time.
This 10376.
Yeah.
So now,
go ahead.
So you would know what your total cost was. In this case, I had 14,094 available in my PD for this fund. So I'm going to just enter the 14,094 and I'm going to subtract out. I'm sorry, I'm going to, yeah, that's what I'm going to enter. Let me do that one more time. I'm going to divide that by the rate.
Yeah. When it comes to X time and certain things, you take the amount you want to budget divided by the rate type or the rate, and then it will translate it to hours for you. So that applies for your X time, for example, um, and teacher release days. The rate type for that one is days. It'll give you a rate for each day, and then you would divide the amount you want to budget by that daily rate, and then it will convert it to a total cost for you once you enter those hours or days, depending on the rate type we're talking about.
Okay. So I knew that I wanted to spend 14,094, right? And it actually came out to 14,092 because I didn't put in the total number of decimal places to bring it to the 094. But I took the 14,094, divided it by this rate, and got this number, and came out to 14,092. And let me just show you what it would look like if I took it to as many places as we let you take it. So it's not going to let me go more than that, but it's only 2 cents. And if I save this, and then I go back to my budget summary page, and you see that I have like $2 left. They do encourage schools to not leave more than $100 in your pending distribution line after all of your purchases are made. So we want to come as close to zero here as we can get.
And then Claire, if we can go over now that the school, when they're done with their budget, where are they going to go to submit and validate their budget?
So you have this tab here, Budget and Plan Submission, and you're going to validate.
And Claire, what does that validation do?
The validation is with the SFE. So it's actually sending out a web service call to the SFE to validate the costs of your budget items and see if they match. If you have a no match condition, you would have a red error message here. And it could even be that maybe you had some positions, rollover ones that you didn't close or you didn't select as active. So if I may, Mohammed, I'd like to show them what that looks like when you have a hanging position, one that hasn't been made closed or active. So in this case, I have everything dispositioned here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my, right here, this teacher, and I'm just going to close this from the page, basically delete it, right? And now I should have that one white background, I do, but now I'm just doing this for purpose of illustration. We didn't make this active in a pillar page and we didn't close it. So this is what it looks like when you have not taken care of all of your rollover positions. Okay, so now I'm just going to close this and go back to where Mohammed had me before. It's going to be your budget and plan. See how I have this error message here. A school cannot submit its SPSA if the school exceeds its budget or $100 remains, and then you have this one telling you that you have an error. So what you want to do is make sure that you take care of all those positions. Otherwise, you won't be able to submit it, right? So I'm just going to make this one active. Now I'm going to save the page.
And as a reminder to our pilot schools, when you enter your budget information on the SPSA side and validate it, it will automatically migrate into school front end that way. And so you do not need to enter your Title I budgets again in school front end. That's the beauty of this pilot program is you do it all on the SPSA side, and your fiscal specialist will be able to see all of those budget entries that you validated in SFE after you've completed these steps.
So you see now, after I made the last rollover position active in a pillar page, and then I came back to this budget and plan submission and clicked validate, I'm okay. There's no red error message. The blues are okay. That tells me I've got something funded less than 100%. So I need to remember, oh, I have a additional percentage I need to fund from somewhere, right? Either another categorical fund or a general fund. And then I would be able to go right here and notify my local district approvers my budget's ready for approval. So once you take care of all of your rollover positions, then any errors that you have here are going to come directly from the SFE. And again, they have a number of errors that it could be, you know. And the thing is, when you have an error message and you don't understand what it is, you need to work with your fiscal specialist to correct it in the SFE. Also, schools reach out to Mohammed or myself. We also help with errors. There's certain ones that are common, like I said, when you didn't disposition all of your rollover positions.
Okay. And then the last thing we'll point out before we kindly ask you to just take a minute or two to complete the evaluation is you'll notice you have the separate headers for your budget submission and one for your plan submission. You must submit each one separately by clicking on the notify reviewers or approvers the budget is ready for approval. That will not submit your plan. You still have to click on the separate submit plan button for them to review and approve your plan as well. So the top one is just for your budget when you're going into your budget development appointment. The bottom one is for your full plan for them to review and approve it. So make sure you're hitting both of those and looking for that saved successfully message or email sent successfully message so that you know that there are no errors that you need to fix.
And then once you do that, once you do submit your budget, you want to come down here to your approval tracking. And then this tells you what your reviewers are doing. Are they approving it? Are they requiring a revision? Has it been submitted to your fiscal? Do you see the box here that says doc number for program fund? That means it's been posted. So we did put the PowerPoint into the chat window, and you can review what those all look like. But yes, you want to stay in this page too, because it tells you where you're at. We also do the dashboard. That also tells you, right? This is your plan. Here's your pilot budget.
And so with that, I'll just mention that Claire and I will stick around to answer additional questions, and I'll try to answer a couple of questions in the chat. But again, before leaving, or just after leaving, we do kindly ask that you take just a couple minutes to complete a very brief evaluation of the training today. We included the link in the chat just a minute ago. It's also on the PowerPoint and in the agenda that you received. We really do take to heart the feedback that you provide and try to use it to improve the quality of the training we provide to you. One of the things that we heard in previous feedback is, can you demonstrate the process for us so we have a better understanding? So this live demo that we're doing is a result of that feedback that we got from all of you. And so we really do appreciate it when you take the time to let us know what we can improve with the trainings that we're providing. With that, I definitely want to thank all of you for taking time out of your busy morning to be with us. Just know again that today's presentation is just an overview. You're going to get additional in-depth training and support from your regional teams, and our SPSA team is here, of course, to support you. We are going to do our best to be in your budget development appointment so we can help resolve any technical issues, any problems you encounter, so you can have a smooth budget development appointment going into your 25-26 BD. And we're really looking forward to supporting all of you with this process. Those of you who need to exit, it's 10:30 at this time. You're welcome to do so. We're going to stick around, try to answer some of those